This week has probably been one of the most uncomfortable weeks of my entire life. A bit of a train wreck, actually. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. I know there is. So the story starts 5 years ago. I was living in Halifax, born and raised, working at a bar, have a shiny new diploma, and was living with my parents. Was kind of with a guy that I knew was going nowhere. So I quit my job, bought a one-way ticket to Vancouver, 2 suitcases, knew absolutely no one, and had a place to live for 1 month. That's it. I started looking for a job the traditional way that most of you do, most of us have been taught to do, online listings. You see the listing, you're like, oh, I can apply for this. So you post your resume and a cover letter, and it just kind of gets among the sea of the other applicants. 3 months later, I realized that wasn't really working. So I applied for a job that I really, really wanted. And I walked into an event they were hosting. I was like, I'm going to be different this time. I'm going to put a face to the name and just try to get a job that way instead of just applying. So I walked up to the hiring manager full of confidence. I'm like, okay, this is it. This has got to be it. Found out very quickly that that role had already been filled. I was crushed. But I was at the event anyway. I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to stop up my tears and listen to this panel of speakers. The panel turned out to be an incredibly inspiring panel of speakers, one of which was the Vancouver Park Board General Manager. So I listened to him talk about the legacy of the Olympics and where the city was going with all the facilities and the parks and recreation and everything that was coming from the Olympics. And I was like, man, I could really get behind a leader like that. So I went home and I drafted up an email thinking, oh yeah, he's definitely going to read it. Sent it away. 2 weeks later, I mean, it was a bunch of jibber-jabber about points that I felt were really integral to who I was and how it connected with who he was and what he was saying. 2 weeks later, he emailed me back, shockingly. I still didn't have a job at this point, by the way. And he said, I'd love to meet you. So that turned into a 6-month contract, of which there was no contract. So that's how I got my very first job in Vancouver. So very uncomfortable being thrust into this new job, but I was lucky that it was in Stanley Park. So I walked along English Bay to along the beach every day to my job. Being new to Vancouver, it was like a dream. So I spent 6 months there, and very quickly after that 6 months, which flew by, I was pushed into another role at a very different location, making lots of money, but not really doing anything. So, yeah, it's ridiculous. So I was like, well, I can't really advance my career sitting in a desk making lots of money. So I decided to, again, get uncomfortable out of that security blanket, and I ended up tweeting at the VP of a PR firm that I really wanted to work for. And that 2 weeks later turned into a new job for me. I went and met her, had coffee, and then I started working for one of the firms that I had a lot of respect for in the city. So, getting uncomfortable again, I thrust into media relations, of which I knew nothing about. So the first 3 months of that job, I probably went home every day not being able to breathe with so much stress on my chest because I'm like, how am I going to do this? If anybody knows media relations, it's incredibly stressful. But that job turned out to provide me with the best career obstacle learnings of my life. I learned so much and had great inspiring leaders that I followed there. But again, getting uncomfortable is my theme. So about 3 or 4 years later, I decided that, okay, I learned a lot, but the vision and goals didn't really align with who I was and what I wanted in my career. So 2 weeks after I decided that, I quit that job and jumped into my own profession, my own company, I should say, having no clients. But this time it was different because I had credibility, I knew the city, I had a lot of contacts, so it felt different. As much as it was scary and uncomfortable, it had a different feeling to it. So I grabbed one contract, got me going, had another one on the side, got me going there. Then very quickly, after 2 months, I was snapped up by the company I first started working for because they had a really amazing team doing some really cool things I wanted to be a part of. So here's some money, here's a really cool title, kind of. And then I loved that job. It was great. I had an amazing team. I was traveling to China, working with people I never thought I would work with. And then Monday happened. The rug got pulled underneath me and my team. We walked into a meeting, and we were told that our jobs were terminated. This was Monday, a few days ago. The company went bankrupt. And for reasons beyond our control, that's where I am today. So back to the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm actually incredibly excited. The team that I was working with, we've now quickly, within 48 hours, have a business name, have 2 contracts, and are continuing to work with other clients to get them back on track. So as much as working for the company was wonderful, and this was an incredibly uncomfortable experience to have to go through, I really hope no one else has to go through this, because it's very scary. I'm incredibly excited, and I'm really thrilled at what's going to come up next for us. So my overall theme for you is get uncomfortable. If you're comfortable right now, that's great, but if it's not really leading to where you want to go, step out of that comfort zone, because you never really know what it could open up. Thank you.